Hey everybody, this is Joel Hoekstra from Whitesnake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra. Today I just want to take a standard progression and show you how to dress it up a little bit by using some Hendrix-inspired clean fills. So the way this is going to work is we're going to use 4 chords, but I want to show you, obviously when you play your standard major and minor chords, a major chord starting off the low E and a major chord starting off the A, or a minor chord starting off the low E, or a minor chord starting off of the A. Those are the 4 chords that I want to show you these fills based upon. So we're going to take an E minor chord here in 7th position, okay, starting from the A string. And I wrote out a series of licks that you should loosely interpret to be able to come up with some fills off of it, okay? The first thing I would do is take my pinky off, and I have written down, so if we have, okay, and then the second fill is just hammering down that pinky on the B. So we have now hammering it down to where it actually belongs on the G, okay? So all those first 3 moves are just by picking up your pinky. We've got, and if you were to hammer it back down, you can hear you get some cool fills based on that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up, and I'm just going to go to, okay? So I'm actually taking more of like almost like the D. It's imagine lifting all these off of the E minor at that point. I'm getting the G and the D with the pick, but hammering down on the D. Okay, and then I'm going to resolve it by playing the 7th on the A and the D. Okay, so that many of the fills really just sounds like this. Okay, I'm sure most of you have heard those type of fills. I've had a lot of friends though over the years ask me, how do you get this stuff down? And there's really no system. And so I'm just going to kind of give you stuff to loosely interpret here in this lesson today, and hopefully you guys can do your own thing with them. The other thing that triggers in my mind is taking the 10th on the B and the E and kind of sliding with 4ths. So I'm kind of, so, okay. And same thing here really with, okay, or, so I'm taking a little mini power chord there. You can see off of the E minor chord. I just want you to see visually, so you're always kind of thinking of that chord. Okay, or, and then we have, okay, to wrap it up. Okay, so here's every fill we have for that E minor chord. Okay, so all of those really kind of trigger in my brain as options when I'm playing an E minor chord there. And obviously all that stuff, no matter where I'm putting it, if I were to move it up to A minor, all that stuff would fall right there for me. Okay. And obviously, most of the time, you're not going to do that many fills with a chord in a vocal song, especially. It's just going to be a filler, too. But hopefully, these licks will come to mind when you're playing that minor chord as options. Now, I want to move to a G chord next in the progression, okay? So I want to think of it a little bit Jimi style by wrapping the thumb around to play the low G there and getting the top part. And what that does is that gives us our pinky free to do some of that stuff we were doing with this minor chord here. So we're taking G major, okay? And I have for the fills, and so all of that, again, our first 3 are just using that pinky. All to be loosely interpreted. I mean, if you want to do that, you can hear there's lots of options there, just on that alone. Okay, now this next one you got to kind of move out of position for, but what I'm thinking of is resolving to this G by using the A. Okay, so we're getting the second on the G and the third on the B. Doing a quick hammer-on pull-off on 4. So our first 4 examples there, in terms of licks off of a G. Okay, now we're back into the kind of slidey 4th thing. I just want to take this top end of the G chord and slide up, which even you could even get further in if you wanted to go to 7. It starts to sound very Hendrix-y when you get that major 7 in there. Okay, and here's the next example. Okay, and then just to fill in this low territory, because we really haven't had anything down here, I wanted to put that in there. So I'm just getting the 2nd fret on the A and the D. Okay. So once again, loosely interpreted, but here's what we have in the mag. Okay, all really nice fills that hopefully will trigger in some kind of order whenever you think of a major chord. Now, of course, that's all there for G. Let's say we were doing that for D. Hopefully all that stuff comes to mind. Okay. So next up, we're going to use an A minor chord here in 5th position. Same thing, man. We're just going to start off with like working off of pulling the pinky off the chord. And the first 3 licks are just that. And obviously there's something that sounds a little more rhythmic about that using more than 1 string. If you're going, it doesn't have the same effect as all that stuff. So, okay, so here's what we have for the first 3. Now here, I'm just going to use the ring finger. Okay, so there's what we have so far in terms of those fills written down. Down to the 8th here, and hammering both of those back down. Okay? Okay, in any given order. Another thing that's kind of nice on that is to use the blue note. There, so. What I mean by the blue note is the note out of the blues scale. So we have. Okay, now the slidey stuff again here. I immediately just think of this turning into an A minor 7 chord. Okay, so that's all the kind of slidey stuff that comes to mind when I'm there. Everything like that just triggers for me when I see an A minor chord if I want to find some fills. Okay. So anyway, same thing. If you were to move that up to E minor, all that stuff should just kind of trigger in your head when you get up. Okay, now finally here with D major. This is a little bit of a trickier one. It takes a little bit of visualization. There's not much to do when you're right here outside of add the 4th, which we've all seen a lot of in our time, right? So the way I think Jimmy would approach this stuff is the old Wind Cries Mary thing, where that D would become a D over F sharp. Okay, so we're taking this part of the D chord here, the part that our third finger's on, and thinking of that as our first finger. But having that F sharp there, and you could play the low D here if you wanted to have that in. Okay, so we have, in terms of fills off of this, from what's in the magazine, or we have, okay, okay. Now the slidey stuff again, I tried to put this kind of in the same order for each chord so you could make some sense of it. Again, this stuff is all really loosely interpreted, so it's a very hard lesson to give in a way, but it's also a very cool one that I think has lots of real-world applications for you guys. So I wanted to go for it. This is sliding up, 10 to 12, and then this one is just, again, pulling right out of the 9 and 10 on the G and the B, and resolving to the D. And the next one I actually went with the thirds. And then at the end there. So the fills we have in the magazine for D sound something like this. To resolve that last one. So obviously the old. So I'm just going to do a quick little run through that progression, E minor, G to A minor to D. I'm not going to try and hit every lick that we've covered there, but just give you an idea of what this stuff can sound like. Okay, now, if you wanted to take E minor, instead of playing it there, you could play it here, couldn't you? At the 12th fret, and have all those licks that we're doing for A minor come to mind for E minor. Okay, and then we would go to G, instead of going to this low G, you could think of this G. Okay, remember this with moving it up? Okay, and A minor, instead of playing this one, I would move that to here. Okay, and then with our D that we were playing here, we could do this one. So I just want to give you an idea how that stuff sounds up there then. So anyway, have some fun with those, mix and match, and of course keep it loosely interpreted as it's intended to be. And I'm sure you'll find many of your own ideas within there. But I think it's a great way to outline a progression without having to think scales or think set chords or arpeggiating through chords. So have fun with it.